Merry Christmas and welcome back to All About English. I am Dennis Wilborn, and in this episode, we will be continuing Chapter 4 of Charles Dickens's A Christmas Carol. If you recall, in the last episode, we left off with Scrooge being confronted by a shadowy figure and witnessing a group of businessmen gossiping about someone's death. In this episode, we will be exploring the rest of Chapter 4, titled The Last of the Spirits. So grab your hot cocoa and join me as we continue this exciting journey through the heartwarming tale of A Christmas Carol. This is episode 21 out of 26, so sit back and let's get started. As always, I like to start with vocabulary. This is The Last of the Spirits, part 2. The first word on the list is a noun, bundle. Bundle. A group of things tied or wrapped together. There's a large bundle of magazines on the desk. Yeah, get a lot of things together, put some string around it or tie it up with some rope. That's a bundle. All right. Make sure you stack your newspapers in bundles when recycling them. Do you still get newspapers? I mean, I used to do this when I was in like high school. In junior high school and elementary school, we'd get the newspaper, we'd stack the newspaper together and recycle it. Well, at least we did in high school. And yeah, anyway, who gets newspapers anymore? Do you? I'd love to know. Leave a comment. I'm just dying to know. All right, next one. Here's one you just don't hear much anymore at all. A charwoman. This is a noun. A woman whose job it is to clean a house, an office building, etc. Oftentimes we call this a housekeeper or a maid, but back in those days we called that a charwoman, probably because they had to deal with a lot of char, meaning like charcoal, like from all of the wood and coal burning fires. His wife is the charwoman in the old church, not to be confused with chairwoman, which you might hear nowadays in a business sense. Next up, propitiation. Propitiation. Propitiation, the act of stopping somebody from being angry by trying to please them. Propitiation. All right. You're not going to hear this very often, but you might read it quite often. For her propitiation, we should go to the lake today to make it up to her, to keep her from being angry. Try to stop someone from being angry. Do you know anyone who you have to try to stop from being angry by trying to please them some way? Sounds like a kind of a negative kind of personality trait. If you have to work really hard to stop them from being angry by pleasing them, they sound like they might have a problem. And the last one is wicked. Wicked. Adjective to describe someone or something that is extremely bad or evil. They say he was a wicked man who never helped anyone. Yeah, if you've ever seen the movie The Wizard of Oz or read the book, you'll know this word, wicked, describes the witch, the Wicked Witch of the West. It's not just alliteration with 3 W's. Wicked, extremely bad or evil. I think they made a musical about the Wicked Witch of the West, and they titled the movie, or they titled the musical Wicked. I don't know. I didn't see it, but I heard about it. All right. Here we go. A Christmas Carol, Chapter 4, The Last of the Spirits. Remember last time Scrooge was listening to some businessmen talking about the death of someone, and he noticed that he wasn't in his usual place. And he believed that this was a sign that maybe he had set about a new life, a new path for himself. Let's see what he finds in this episode. They left this busy scene and went into an obscure part of the town, to a low shop where iron, old rags, bottles, bones, and meat were traded. A gray-haired man sat smoking his pipe. Scrooge and the phantom came into the presence of this man, just as a woman with a heavy bundle entered the shop. But she had scarcely entered when another woman, similarly clothed, came in too, and she was closely followed by a man in faded black. "Let the charwoman to be here to be the first," said she who had entered first. "Let the washer to be the second, and let the undertaker's man to be the third." "You couldn't have met in a better place. The other two ain't strangers. What have you got to sell?" "Half a minute's patience, Joe, and you shall see." "What odds, then? What odds, Mrs. Dibbler?" said the woman. "Every person has a right to take care of themselves. He always did. Who's the worse for the loss of a few things like these? Not a dead man, I suppose?" Mrs. Dibbler, whose manner was remarkable for general propitiation, said, "No, indeed, ma'am." "If he wanted to keep him after he was dead, a wicked old screw, why wasn't he natural in his time frame? If he had been, he'd have had somebody to look after him when he was struck with death, instead of being by himself." "It's the truest word that was ever spoke. It's a judgment on him." I wish it was a little heavier judgment, and it should have been. You may depend upon it. And if I could have laid my hands on anything else. Open that bundle, old Joe, and let me know the value of it. I'm not afraid to be the first, nor afraid to let them see it. Joe went down on his knees for the greater convenience of opening the bundle, and dragged out a large and heavy roll of some dark stuff. "What do you call this? Bed curtains?" "Ah! Bed curtains! Don't drop that oil upon the blankets now." "His blankets?" "Whose else do you think? He isn't likely to take cold without them. Ah! You may look through that shirt till your eyes ache, but you won't find a hole in it. It's the best he had, and a fine one too. They'd have wasted it by dressing him up in it, if it hadn't been for me." Scrooge listened to this dialogue in horror. "Spirit, I see. The case of this unhappy man might be my own. My life tends that way now. Merciful heaven, what is this? Whew. What in the world is going on in this scene? And what is this shop all about? Well, first of all, let's recap. Who came to the shop? Who came to the shop? Well, it was right at the very beginning. We find there are three people coming into the shop. The shop itself has a gray-haired man sitting smoking his pipe in the shop. Just then a woman with a heavy bundle entered the shop, but she had scarcely entered when another woman, similarly clothed, came in too, and she was closely followed by a man in faded black. Let the charwoman to be the first," said she who had entered first. So the first woman with the heavy bundle entered the shop. She was the first. So the second person is the charwoman. So therefore, let the washer be the second, meaning she's the washer, because we know that the undertaker's man is most likely the man in faded black. So the undertaker's man is to be the first. Charwoman, the cleaner of the houses. The washer is the second, and the undertaker's man is the third. Okay? Now, what does she mean by let the charwoman be the first? She was saying, let this other lady go before me. So, and they are talking about something that they're going to sell. It's a very difficult dialogue to have, because we don't know exactly who is talking at what time. So, whom did the things brought by the woman to the shop belong to? Right, it doesn't specifically say who it belongs to. All we know is that it's a dead man, and he won't be missing the things. So what did Joe find in the first bundle? Right, the bed curtains. He found the bed curtains, the blankets, and a shirt, apparently. And what did the woman urge Joe to look at? She only urged him to look at one thing. She says, you may look through that shirt till your eyes ache, but you won't find a hole in it. So imagine that the man is looking through a shirt, all the different angles, trying to find any flaw because he's trying to determine the value. Have you figured out what kind of shop that we are in yet? Well, guess what? It's like it's like a pawn shop, if you will, from back in those days. This is a low shop where iron, old rags, bottles, bones, and meat are traded. So it's kind of a shop where everything can be sold or traded, usually by the poor folks. All right. So again, you can always look at language practice and true or false questions to find out just how much you understood about the story. It's not the easiest passage. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them in the comments down below. And I will ask this simple question. How do you think Scrooge felt seeing all of this? How do you think Scrooge felt seeing all of that? It's a lot to take in, really. And it seems as if our friend Scrooge doesn't seem to know who they're talking about. And my question for you is, do you know who they're talking about? Let me know, and I will see you later this evening for episode 22. Have a great night. Thanks for joining me on this reading of A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. And if you want to continue the story, just click on the box right over there. I am always grateful for your support, so please remember to like and subscribe for more from All About English. Merry Christmas.